Hello, everyone. I am Mackenzie Yates, IEA's Communications Coordinator, and welcome to IEA's Collegiate Connection. As you may know, IEA is the largest youth equestrian organization in the country. Many of our riders want to continue riding in college. There are several riding programs such as the NCEA, IHSA, and the ANRC. As a service to our members, we would like to provide as much information as we can to help guide you through the process with IEA's Collegiate Connection. We have three webinars scheduled for this fall, and we hope you will be able to join us on all 3 nights. Please type any questions you have during the webinar in the chat room on the right. We will also have a short question and answer session at the end of the presentation. Tonight, our guest speaker is Dr. Leah Fiorentino, the Executive Director of the National Collegiate Equestrian Association, called the NCEA, not to be confused with the NCAA. The NCEA works with the NCAA to provide oversight of the NCAA's emerging sport of equestrian. Teams that report to the NCAA sponsor a varsity equestrian team and are allowed to participate in a variety of formats, including ability level competitions, weekend multi-team competitions, or head-to-head competitions. Presenting along with Dr. Fiorentino is IEA's co-founder and executive director, Roxanne Lawrence-Durrett. So I will now turn this over to Roxanne.
Hey, welcome. Thank you, Mackenzie, and hey to everyone out there, IEA members, parents, and coaches too. Welcome to our first Collegiate Connection. I want to start off by thanking Mackenzie because she has led us into a new world of communication and education by setting up this webinar and patiently teaching all of us how to use it. So hopefully the technology will come through for us and it'll all be a big success. I've never been on this side of a webinar before, so I've definitely learned a lot. So thank you very much to Mackenzie. We really appreciate all the work you've done to train us on how to do this webinar thing. And now I'm going to go ahead and give an introduction to our guest speaker. Our presenter tonight is Dr. Leah Fiorentino. She's been the executive director of the NCEA since January of 2015. She is a graduate of Stony Brook University, Adelphi University, and Teachers College Columbia University, and has worked in higher education settings at Adelphi, Florida Atlantic University, Armstrong Atlantic State University, and is currently at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke. Dr. Fiorentino's work has focused on issues related to leadership in higher education, especially for women. And please note that as it relates to equestrian offerings, NCAA programs are considered an offering only for female students. Her personal experience as a collegiate athlete while at Stony Brook University, competing on the men's swim team, the men's crew team, and someday I want to hear of that story. She also was on the women's field hockey team, and these activities spurred her efforts to become involved with NCEA. She works in concert with NCAA to expand the number of NCAA institutions sponsoring equestrian teams across the nation. She's committed to expanding the number of meaningful participation opportunities for female student athletes to pursue education at institutes of higher education. Her collaborative efforts with the NCAA leadership has shown great promise over the past 18 months of her tenure. Dr. Fiorentino has been an active supporter of collegiate equestrian programs since 2003 and has followed the development of sport throughout the past decade. Her specific interest in equestrian activities started in 1993 when her daughter entered short stirrup classes at a local show on Long Island, New York. And her interests continue today watching student athletes that are now coached by her daughter. So now I'm going to turn the screen over to Leah, Dr. Leah Fiorentino, and she will teach us about the NCEA offerings.
Thank you, Roxanne. I'm thrilled to have a chance to share information with the IEA members about NCAA Equestrian and the NCEA head-to-head format. I have a short video about the NCEA format that we're going to show to start off this webinar to those who are unfamiliar with the head-to-head format. We're hoping that you can gain a better understanding of the head-to-head competitions. After the video, I plan to share some important information about the NCAA recruiting rules that I hope will be of value to riders and parents. I'll follow that with some tips for success that have been forwarded by the NCEA coaches to help you put your best foot forward in the recruiting process. And then we'll close out the webinar with some time for questions from the IEA members through the chat window. So Mackenzie, if you could cue up that video. So we are on the NCEA main webpage, and we have a specific section over here for student athletes. And we have information in there that we've put together just to help you learn more about how to interact with NCAA coaches and teams. So we put this together just for high school riders that are interested in pursuing participation opportunities on those teams. Now, our NCAA equestrian teams are only for female riders, and that's not a rule that we've put in place. It's a rule from the NCAA. The tab marked student athletes is where you'll find all of the important information for recruiting procedures. Coaches of NCAA equestrian teams have to follow very strict rules about recruiting new team members. Once you enter the 9th grade, you become a potential student athlete, and you'll hear the abbreviation PSA used to describe you. From that point on, you're in a very special class of riders, and you can begin to communicate with the coaches of the NCAA team. NCAA information link.
Can you go back and show us that link again? So the first link
was student athletes.
Okay, and then go back over to the next link. So that was
NCAA information.
Okay,
and that's where we are now.
Okay.
So here we've got information about the NCAA and the requirement guidelines that you need to follow. You see that there's information about the NCAA Eligibility Center on this page. This is a very important resource that you should begin to use as soon as possible. This is the main clearinghouse for all NCAA student athletes coming out of high school. So some of the students that you go to high school with that might play football or basketball or volleyball, they all use this same NCAA Eligibility Center. You will need to work with your high school guidance counselor to be sure that your grades are all entered into the account that you'll open. You will also need to submit any standardized test scores to the Eligibility Center. The NCAA has specific rules about the type of courses that you need to complete while in high school. So be sure you are cleared for competition if you are offered a place on an NCAA team. So let's take a little look at the information that's on this page, and then I'll take you to the 2 other pages. So here's the initial eligibility with specific directions and suggestions for freshmen and sophomores, high school juniors, and high school seniors. And any of you that are not in a traditional high school setting and are homeschooling, it's important that you are connected into the different requirements for the classes that you may be taking at home. So let me scroll down to that. And this section here on academics is what all of our high school students need to pay very close attention to. Here are the specifics for the different academic courses that you need to complete while in high school in order to be cleared by the NCAA to compete on one of the college teams. These are the same standards and requirements for athletes from all teams. When you meet with your high school guidance counselor, make sure that you can bring them to this page so that you can see, he or she can see work that are required for you to move through the clearinghouse process. So we'll come back up to the top and we'll take a look at the next link, which is a value. We created this just for interested PSAs, such as the folks that are on the call here. So we started out with, as on all FAQ pages, the most frequently asked questions that we receive on a regular basis from high school riders. So we've gone through here, we've included information about the Eligibility Center. We've included information here about winning money and your amateur status. Included information here about what it's like to be involved in a collegiate program, including mandatory activities. Campuses require study halls. They require service work. Programs have strength and conditioning coaches that work with the riders 3 times or 4 times a week. But the priority is always on academics. You're a student, and therefore it's really important that you have good grades in high school and you maintain that commitment to academics when you enter college. And the last set that we set up for you has to do specifically with recruitment. And here we've set up a step-by-step plan for you as you consider NCAA equestrian teams, with some ideas that you may want to consider for how to begin planning, especially if you're just in the 9th or 10th grade now.
Yeah, I think too, one of the things that's particularly different with NCEA and following NCAA eligibility and recruiting rules is the rules about when you can talk to coaches and who can talk to whom and what time of year you can talk to them. So all of that is really important to look at on that recruiting page. And maybe Leah, you can highlight a little bit of that for us too.
Well, actually, maybe we should go to the tips for success, because we've got that set up. Where did it go? Maybe that's what got eaten up when I was offline. Okay.
Yes, recruiting tips.
Okay. So here, as Roxanne suggested, the importance of knowing about when, in fact, you can begin doing different things is really, really important. So I'm going to read this because it's really, really important for you to think about where you are in this process now. Prepare yourself if you're not yet in your junior or senior year. Okay, so September 1st of your rising junior year. So that's September 1st when you're entering junior year of high school. At that point, coaches are permitted to initiate communication and return communication at any time. This means that they can call, text, and email you unlimitedly. Now, they'll also be able to look at your Facebook pages and your social media. So make sure that those are really looking spiffy and don't have anything questionable on them. July 1st in senior year. So that's after you finish your junior year in high school. Over the summer between your junior year and the start of your senior year, coaches can have off-campus contact with a PSA after you're done with a competition. So what does that mean? Oftentimes, our coaches will go to different competitions so that we can watch the high school riders and see how well they do in a live competition. Until that year before you're a senior in high school, the coaches can't speak with you while they're at that competition. They're allowed to watch, but they cannot come over and speak with you or your parents. They're just there as observers. However, in that summer time before you become a high school senior, they can come to a competition and they can speak with you after you're done competing in the events. So they can't come bother you at the end gate. They have to wait until you're totally done with all of your competitive events, and then they can approach you. Now, on August 1st of that rising senior year, coaches can actually provide a written offer for a scholarship. You can't sign that offer until November, but you would have that in hand if, in fact, you're eligible for an athletic scholarship. Now, anytime after your first day of your senior year in high school, you can take what's called an official visit to an institution. You may only take one official visit to an institution, and you cannot take more than 5 during your senior year. Now, an official visit, the college or the university might be able to offset all or a portion of your expenses to come and visit with them on their campus for a 48-hour time period. In November of your senior year in high school, there's a specific time period. It's usually the second week in November. That's called the early signing period. And this is the time when universities will issue a national letter of intent. And that's when many of you have seen some of your friends at high school with the pictures of them putting on a baseball cap from a different university. And they have pictures taken and they're wearing sweatshirts for where they're going to compete as an athlete in college. Well, that's their national letter of intent when they go through the early signing period. In April of your senior year, there's a second signing period during April, and it runs through August. Okay, so on.
Can I interrupt just 1 minute? Can you also tell us what are coaches allowed to do as far as communicating with freshmen and sophomores, 9th grade and 10th grade? I know there's some very almost awkward seeming communications, but I think if the students understand here's what the NCAA rules are for 9th and 10th graders and communicating and returning communications, that will make them realize this is just an NCAA.
Absolutely. Thank you, Roxanne, for reminding me of that. We've got specific information about that on the website links so that to help you understand. Up until that September 1st of your the start of your junior year of high school, you can call the coaches anytime you want. However, if the coach is not there to receive the call, they cannot return your call. And it's really hard because they really do want to call you back. But the NCAA would penalize the university if, in fact, they broke NCAA rules. So when you're in the 9th grade and the 10th grade, you need to be persistent and continue to try and reach the coach via telephone if, in fact, you have questions or you would just like to speak with them about the program. Sometimes a really good hint is to call the secretary in the athletic department and ask when the coach might be in their office so that you would have a better chance of reaching them. Because as you're all aware, the coaches, they'll have an office in the main athletic department building, but most of the day they're at the barn running practices and schooling the horses. Was that helpful, Roxanne?
Yes, yeah. I think it's if you don't realize that going in, then you think, how come that person never returns my phone calls? But these are the rules of communicating in NCAA. So you have to be aware of that and realize that you have to be persistent and actually reach them on the phone. They're not allowed to call you back. So I think a lot of the recruiting rules are what feels just different to us as equestrian athletes. But if you're, coming from the world of football, basketball, baseball, some of those that are more standard NCAA sports or have longer, been around in NCAA longer, then the coaches are more used to those types of communications. But for our equestrian athletes, we're navigating it on our own with less help maybe from coaches, and coaches are learning how to do all this also. So it's I think just understanding that the recruiting rules are the one piece that's different to navigate in NCEA compared to the other organizations. That's good to know.
Right. The other sports have been around for decades. So the coaches grew up as athletes in that system, and it's all just normal and natural for them. We're brand new. So we are really just kind of coming into this, and it's a totally different world for equestrians. This is new for many of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the types of recruiting materials.
Leah, can you actually hit hide on the bottom of your screen? It says Google Hangouts is sharing your screen. They can't see your full PowerPoint presentation. Yep.
Hey,
there you go.
Okay. I was afraid if I hit hide, the whole thing would go away.
I know. Don't touch anything. Okay, you can touch that.
Scary. Okay. All of the NCEA teams have recruiting questionnaires, and that's your first introduction to a coach. On the NCEA page, you'll be able to find a link to those team questionnaires, and you can complete that questionnaire. Some ask for you to load a YouTube link to maybe a video that you've created. You can go back and enter and update your grades as you go along. But this puts you on the coach's radar. So it's a really, really good thing to get started on as soon as you narrow down an interest in a specific program. You should send an introductory email to the coaches that has some of your background information and your current coach's or trainer's name. The coaches are allowed to talk to your coach, your high school coach, or your trainer, even though they can't call you. They can speak with them. Most of the coaches do the largest part of their evaluation from video files. And this is your opportunity to impress the coach and really show them what you can do on a horse. Not all coaches have big budgets that they can travel around and watch you at live competitions. So you want to make sure that you maximize your exposure to them. So please make it easy for them to view your videos. If you have a YouTube channel, make sure that you send the coach a direct link and give them access. Don't create videos that last longer than 5 minutes, but you can set up multiple videos. It's just that the coaches, after 5 minutes, guaranteed somebody walks into their office, and you don't want them distracted. Hunter seat coaches, they want to see you flatting horses as well as jumping. And they want to see you schooling and riding horses at home, maybe during lesson time, in addition to any footage from horse shows. Western riders, they want to see footage of the specific event, either horsemanship or reining, as well as riding and working your horses at home. And they want to see you on a variety of horses. So they don't want to see you just on the perfect horse that you ride all the time and that is just wonderful for you. They want to see how you handle a young horse. So they want to see how you handle an older horse who needs a little bit more leg put on him or her. You want to begin to develop a resume. Now, this shouldn't be your entire show record of every show that you went to and every ribbon that you won. You should only include really pertinent information in there.
Highlights.
You want the highlights, the high spots there.
Right.
You want to scan and then email copies of your high school transcripts to the coaches. They are really focused on you doing a great job in high school and having really good grades. So make sure that you pay attention to your grades. And you can also scan and email your test score results directly to the coaches. And coaches really do take into account your academic performance when they're considering scholarship offers. So when you're communicating with coaches, here's some recruiting tips from them. Coaches receive an average of 20 emails from PSAs every day. Make sure you send the pertinent information. So here's what they need to have from you. They need your NCEA ID number. You'll get that when you open your Eligibility Center account. Know your specific discipline registration number. So if you're a hunt seat rider, you would have USEF numbers in there, and Western would have the excuse me, association. They want your trainer's name, your high school name, and your graduation year. Now that's really important because that tells them whether or not they can return a phone call to you. Don't fret over making perfect videos and keep them concise. And this next tip is really, really important. Make sure your social media and networking sites are clean. Coaches will absolutely remove a possible recruit from their checklist if, in fact, you have questionable postings on your social media. So please make sure that everything is really terrific on them. If the coaches ask you to provide additional information to them, try and do that in a timely manner. They may ask you about to send another video of you doing a specific type of flat work pattern. So do respond, and tell them, oh, it's going to take me another week to get that. But they gauge your interest in how quickly you return, you respond back to them. And with communicating, yes, I already said don't send your entire show record. Don't feel pressured to hire a recruiting consultant. The coaches really enjoy interactions with you. So, feel quite comfortable contacting them directly. Make sure if you update your YouTube channel or you update a personal website, let them know. they want to go and check, but they've got a lot of PSAs that are trying to get in touch with them. And then don't feel pressured to sign if you're offered during the fall early signing period, because sometimes the offer that you might get for a scholarship would be better during the spring signing period. Now, when you visit campus, you can come and visit campus in 9th and 10th grades and 11th grade on what they call unofficial visits. And on unofficial visits, you have to pay your expenses there. Now, when you do meet with the coach, talk about the opportunities that you've had and what you've been able to accomplish, and talk about your best qualities, but don't make excuses for why you haven't done something else. Keep it positive. Make sure that you give the coaches a date and a time window when you'll be in the area or you might be on campus. And make sure that you confirm that date and any time, any location for an actual in-person meeting with the coach. If you're offered an official visit, make sure you accept or decline in a timely manner. Make sure you ask good questions and be honest about your thoughts and feelings about the campus, about the academic programs, and about your interest in the team. If coaches are trying to plan an official visit, please give them the information they request as soon as possible. Oftentimes, they're making arrangements to fly you in to the school, and if you don't respond quickly, the cost of the plane ticket goes up and up and up. And when you're on your official visit, show excitement. Be excited. If this is something that really feels good to you and it seems like it's a good match, let them know it. And if you're fortunate enough to be offered a place on the team or a scholarship, reply in a very timely manner to the coaches and follow up with the coach after the meeting. If the coaches do offer you a place on the team or a scholarship, that means that they're holding a slot open for you and that they're holding money available to you. And if you're not going to accept that offer to go to that particular school, then in fact, another rider would have the opportunity to accept that. So please be considerate of that. And here's the don'ts. You just saw all the do's, so the don'ts. Don't feel pressure to commit to a team or a university while you're visiting the campus. Don't try to just stop by. Don't wait until you're on campus and then you call the coach and say, gee, do you have time to meet with me? Don't schedule too many unofficial visits in a single weekend, or you're going to wind up with a coach saying, gee, could you meet with me at, Friday at 4? And you're going to have to tell them, oh no, I've already scheduled another meeting with a different coach in the area. Try to avoid meetings on weekends or holidays. And if you happen to come to campus when there's a home competition so that you get to watch what's going on, don't expect to have the type of significant interaction that you may have wanted to have with the coach. Think of the college football coaches that are in the middle of a game and none of the high school players are trying to talk to them during halftime, because that's their game and they're coaching and that's where they work. So a coach coaching their competition have the time to step away from the team to visit with you. And if you need more information in general about the NCEA or about NCEA NCEA Equestrian, you can contact me directly through my email address that's on the screen now. And I believe that Mackenzie is going to make sure that everyone that's on the call today point.
Yes,
Can you say that again?
you're breaking up a little bit, Leah, but yes, everyone will get a copy of this recruiting tips PowerPoint presentation via email that you registered with. And then you want to flip back to unscreen share, and we'll do. We have about 10 minutes for questions. Was
I successful on the unscreen share?
Yes, I saw you again there. Good.
Yay!
Oh, we're getting so good at this game. So let's see, I've got a couple of questions that came in early and a few that have come in along the sidebar here in the chat room. So let me throw these at you, Leah. One of these questions is about earning prize money. If you're earning prize money at some of the horse shows, is that okay? Can you still do NCAA if you're winning prize money?
Yes. High school riders that compete either Hunt Seat or Western, where there are monetary prizes, can compete on NCAA teams. High school riders who earn money need to keep track of your winnings and also keep track of your expenses. As long as your winnings don't exceed your expenses for a full year, you meet the eligibility requirements from the NCAA. But you need to be sure that you provide them with all of this information. So please be sure to keep good records.
That makes sense. I'm pretty sure that there's not many people who have made so much money in their prize money that it didn't exceed all the expenses of getting it. So that's probably pretty easy to prove. Just be prepared to prove it, right?
All of us parents know that.
Yeah, the parents know that for sure. Let's see, another question that came in. I have a question from Madison that says, I'm confused about teams that compete in IHSA, but they're listed as NCAA. Can you help explain IHSA, NCEA, and NCAA, all of those letters and how they work together?
Right. Oh, and that's an excellent question. We get that all the time. The NCAA oversees competitive collegiate equestrian teams regarding recruiting and eligibility guidelines. But right now, there aren't specific rules about the competition format. So universities get to choose the format that they want to compete in. Some teams compete in both formats throughout their season, which provides the riders with the best possible opportunity to enjoy equestrian activities while they're enrolled in college. We're adding new teams to the NCAA list each year, and when we reach a total of 40 NCAA equestrian teams, the NCAA will gather all the schools together, and then we'll determine the format that will be used for all teams from that point forward. So in a few years, the format may look a little like IHSA, a little like NCEA, and a little like ANRC. So from my point of view, it's really an exciting time to be part of the collegiate effort. And I'm excited about working with the leaders from the other associations to make the very best model for the NCAA.
Leah, on that same note, it says, you mentioned 40 NCAA teams, and Tavi asked earlier in the chat room, how many NCEA teams are there currently?
We have, there are 18 NCAA teams that are Division I, and there are 5 NCAA Division II schools. And some compete in both. Some only compete in the head-to-head format. So you really have to go and take a look at the different websites and see what their schedule looks like and communicate directly with the coaches so that you have the best idea for the programs that you want.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And all those schools that offer NCAA programs through NCEA, are on your website. They are scrolled across the top of that screen there. So if you're looking for a list of those schools, it's right there on the NCEA website. Let's see, another question that came in as a question from Emma. Where could we actually see an NCEA head-to-head competition? Where can we actually see that format if we wanted to watch one of the shows or attend one of those shows?
Right. There are links from the NCEA website to all of the individual teams' websites, and Roxanne just alluded to that. So you can check for the location of a team that might be of interest to you or might be geographically close for you. And we list all of the upcoming NCEA competitions scheduled for each week. We have a master schedule that's already up there straight through the spring season, right up into our national championships that are held in Waco, Texas, and hosted by Baylor University in April. The other thing that you may want to take a look at is in the Sidelines magazine, there's an NCAA sport page that one of our NCEA interns maintains each month. That'll have all of the results as well as upcoming competitions and articles about the riders.
I see. All right, good. If you've got time, we probably can do one or two more questions. There's some really good questions coming in through the chat room, really good. One question that I think would be good just to back up and explain. Andrea said, explain what is a head-to-head format. So I think maybe that was in the video, but if you weren't here for the video that started out, maybe you could just, a quick synopsis of explaining the NCEA head-to-head format. What does that look like at one of the horse shows?
Sure. The head-to-head format involves two teams that compete at one of the institutions. And the home team provides the horses and the tack. And 5 horses are selected for each of 4 events: equitation on the flat, equitation over fences, Western reining, and Western horsemanship. Now, each one of those horses is ridden by one rider from each team. The rider with the highest score on that horse earns a point for the team. So the total number of points available in a head-to-head competition are 20. Now, what's important to know is that none of the women who compete in the head-to-head event are able to warm the horses up or to school them. And it's just as important to have riders on all of those horses that get them ready for the event, since the women that are competing them. Is that helpful, Roxanne, do you think?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Let's see. They're really great questions here, and I do want to let you know that any of the questions we don't get to tonight, we will be answering through the Twitter takeover, which is a week from today. So if we didn't get your question on the webinar today, you will get an answer to that question on the Twitter takeover. Let's see, there were a couple of questions that might be sort of quick ones we could throw in here. We had talked earlier about if you win prize money and keeping track of that. Another related question is, what about merchandise? If you win a saddle, do you need to be keeping track of things that you win as well as actual, cash prize money?
Yes, you do. Anything that has a monetary value. So a trophy or a belt buckle would not have an associated monetary value, but a saddle or a bridle would.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Sure, that makes sense. Let's see. One more question here. Clara wants to know, she said, is it too late for me to get involved with NCEA if I'm a senior already?
It's never too late. It's never too late, but you should have a really good idea of the type of school that you're interested in attending, as well as, do you want to go to a small school or a large school, a Division I or a Division II? And it's quite normal for student athletes to be what we call walk-on student athletes if there's a spot on the team. And what that means is you may be able to come on the first year and earn a scholarship offer the second, third, or fourth year that you're competing with the team. But it's definitely, I would say, if you're interested in any of the NCAA teams and you're a senior, you may want to start sending some emails and filling out questionnaires tomorrow.
Get on it if you're a senior. And if you're a junior, you're right on track for filling out those things and starting to communicate with those coaches. And if you're a freshman or sophomore, you can never start too early for getting prepared and making sure you know what's coming next in the schools that you want to start looking at. So I think probably that's all the questions we can take now, so we can finish up on time. And let's see, I'll turn it back to, I think Mackenzie will wrap up and explain how we follow up with more questions and how to get on our Twitter takeover next week.
Yes, thank you for everyone for joining our first IEA webinar and hanging in there through the technology issues. Like I said before, we'll be emailing all of the attendees a copy of this webinar, as well as the recruiting tips PowerPoint presentation that you saw earlier. If you do have more questions, on the end of that recruiting PowerPoint tips is Dr. Fiorentino's email address. But also, she's taking over our Twitter for the whole day next Thursday. So from the start of the day to the end of the day, you can tweet at RideIEA at any time and ask her questions. Start a Twitter page, borrow a friend's. We will get back to you within that day or Friday and answer all of your questions, because you guys had a lot of great questions coming in through the chat room. And as a reminder, be sure to attend our next webinar with the IHSA, Coach Jennifer Smith, on October 6th, and also with the ANRC with Patty Zumbrum on October 20th. They will also be having Twitter takeovers as well. A huge thank you for Dr. Fiorentino for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
She was our guinea pig for this first one, so we really appreciate having her and giving everyone the opportunity, and we look forward to the Twitter takeover. So thank you, and thank you, everyone. Dr. Fiorentino,
for joining, too. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everyone.